All right, I think we'll start the event. All right. Thank you everyone for joining the event tonight. So my name is Kun Peng. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in management science and engineering at Stanford University. I'm also part of a leadership team at Stanford Blockchain Club. So at Stanford Blockchain Club, what we're trying to do is to encourage and to help students at Stanford to kind of learn more and get more involved in the blockchain and crypto space. So in the past, we're able to actually organize events in different verticals in blockchain, like DeFi, NFT, and then we also had people coming talking about Polkadot ecosystem. And then we're able to invite speakers from like top projects like Uniswap, Compound, and obviously from Polygon, like Arjun. So today, we have the honor to have Arjun Kalsy, a VP of Growth from Polygon, to share with us Polygon, the project, and also Ethereum scalability in general. That being said, I think we can start the event today, and then we can start with, I think first, Arjun, you can share with us like a little bit of your background. Yeah, so go ahead.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the invitation. So pretty pretty wild ride for us past few months. Ever since our mainnet went live about, I think, just 9-10 months back, and it's been a phenomenal sort of ride for us, as a team and as a community. But just to give a quick background about myself, so I got interested in blockchain back in 2016. So I was working with an IT services company, and I was reporting to the chief technology officer at the time. And sort of he had tasked me with figuring out which are going to be the next big sort of, you could say, technologies which are going to change the world. And I was going through, I sort of did the research and everything. I looked at AI, I looked at AI, machine learning, computer vision, and I was doing all of that research. And then I came across blockchain. And then and as I sort of went down the rabbit hole, as I might say, I became obsessed with the idea, and then it was pretty crazy for me. And then I luckily got a chance to start a career in blockchain and helping build the blockchain business there. And then post that, sort of I took a bit of a detour. I was working with a computer vision startup for about a year, where I was managing their sort of enterprise engagements in some parts of their business in the North America region. And then post that, I sort of was joined Matic. At the time was Matic Network. This is again just last year, in about July, August is when I had that conversation, and the mainnet had just gone live, and then the company wanted to find someone to help sort of grow the ecosystem and all the partnerships. So so that's kind of where my story started, and it's been a very awesome. I've had a great time. Like it's been a lot of work, but I've had a great time, and I'm really happy with the kind of success we've been able to show over a short period of time, and the love of the community which has brought us this far. So just to give everybody like a quick background, on who we are, and also more importantly how we are thinking about scalability and the problem of scalability. I'm just going to share my screen. And Kun, I don't know if I have. Okay, I can share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah, awesome. Sure. So I'll just take you through like a couple of slides again. Just 5-6 slides, just to sort of give you guys more context on what we're thinking. And then on the basis of that, I can take questions, and then we can have a discussion, and would love to sort of leave more time for that. Great. So let me just give you a quick intro about Polygon. And the story, like I said, started back in sort of 2017, when we first started sort of thinking about Ethereum scalability, right? So I don't know how many of you remember, but back in 2017 there was this CryptoKitties episode, right, where a cat game based on cats basically crashed the Ethereum ecosystem, and the blockchain had stuck transactions, and that's kind of when everybody asked that question, right? That blockchain is supposed to be this technology which changes the world, and now this cat game has brought the network to its knees. So what's the future going to be like? Is this even scalable? And that's kind of when those serious conversations started. about how people, how seriously everybody needs to take scalability. And again, this is kind of when Vitalik came up with this paper of sort of talking about plasma technology as a way of sort of bringing in scalability to the Ethereum network. And one of our co-founders was a core plasma researcher, and then sort of he studied the technology and then sort of developed the blueprint of you could say sort of our approach towards Ethereum scalability. And essentially it's pretty simple to understand. Like if you were to just imagine like our we were called Matic network back then. So imagine the Matic chain as you could say a blockchain running just parallel to the Ethereum chain. And what we do is that every 256 blocks we would like Merkle root the transactions, and then we would place a checkpoint on the Ethereum blockchain. And the reason we do that is so that for reasons of security, so that each and every transaction which is happening on the Polygon or the Matic network is sort of provable on Ethereum, and that so there's proof that those transactions happen. And the consensus mechanism on this chain was proof of stake. So thus our technology, like our mainstay, on which our entire ecosystem is built, is you could say a hybrid Plasma POS chain, where we use Plasma sort of fundamentals on sort of security and scalability, but the consensus mechanism is proof of stake. So that's why we say that our chain behaves more like a commit chain compared to like a pure side chain. So because we commit, you could say transactions periodically to Ethereum, and thereby tether ourselves to the Ethereum blockchain. And this was back again, this was the prevalent thinking in 2017. So like the prevalent thinking at the time was scalability should be done, or rather Plasma is sort of the best way of thinking about scalability. But then you fast forward to today, and you kind of realize that that solution sort of led into the problem statement, right? So one of the things which is very clear in the blockchain verse is that there's not going to be this one size fit all scaling solution, right? So the conversation these days you would have seen would be like around optimistic rollups, ZK rollups. There could be some future scaling technology, right? Even maybe 6-9 months down the line, which could be something a step above even these. And there's no one size fit all solution. Like every scaling solution of Ethereum seems to have like its own pros and cons. At the same time, the march of technology is constant, right? So the L2 landscape rather is changing all the time, and there's always like some sort of new technology or some way to make the Ethereum ecosystem better. Um, at the same time, we kind of realize that there's several chains, like some which offer optimistic rollups, some which offer CK rollups, but there doesn't seem to be any formalized framework which offers multiple solutions under one umbrella, right? So a developer needs to go work with 5 or 6 different solutions if he wants to build anything multi-chain. And at the same time, like we are very passionate about the Ethereum community. We feel that sort of the kind of network effects which Ethereum has, the kind of values which the Ethereum ecosystem stands by, make it sort of the best blockchain ecosystem out there. And competitors, like every every I would say few months there would be like this Ethereum killer, which would come up and then would start poaching market share away from Ethereum simply because there were scalability concerns. And what we sort of came up with, and this is early this year, like in January of this year of 2021, we kind of rebranded ourselves to Polygon, right, from Matic Network. And what we kind of realized is that if we want to solve scalability, we need to have a more comprehensive solution, right? So what we wanted to do is we're working. So currently we are just actively researching ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, um, sort of capabilities like shared security chains. We've already launched Polygon SDK, which gives you the ability to even launch your own chain, right? So you can create your own chain and add your own consensus mechanism. It's like a modular approach to launching chains, very easy to use, like a SDK. Like so on the CLI, you can just like press enter, just enter your details, and then the chain is spawned. And if you have to visualize how we're thinking about scalability, so think of it like this: you have sort of Ethereum at the center, and then you have sort of, you could say, all of these different scaling solutions around it. So another way of looking at it is something like Polkadot, but on Ethereum, like keeping Ethereum at the center, because we really feel genuinely that Ethereum is sort of a tried and tested technology. It's been in development for over 8 years, and the code has been audited. So if you want to build scalability, it's best to build it around Ethereum, around this tried and tested and very diverse ecosystem. And what Polygon then essentially would represent is sort of the Swiss Army knife for Ethereum scaling, where all the different scaling techniques are available to the developer, and then the developer decides which is the best scaling solution he or she wants to use to build their solution, right? Instead of me, like, sort of being that, so, that person, we're telling you, no, you should use optimistic rollups, or no, like, use ZK rollups. That's the best technology. Like, as an infrastructure provider, like, we don't want to do that. Like, our focus is to put all the options on the table, and then the developer should get to decide what is the best for their solution, or if they want to build something multi-chain, like, for example, something on optimistic rollups and something on a Plasma POS chain, and have some sort of interchain communication, like anything like that. And all of this entire ecosystem is governed by one token, which is the Matic token, which is sort of the token of the Polygon network, and hence the name Polygon, right? I mean, Polygon mathematically is an n-sided, like, figure which can fit any size or shape, and that is the kind of flexibility which we want to offer to the ecosystem. So this is just a quick brief about how we thought about the solution, and how in 2017 we looked at Plasma as sort of the solution to scale. But as time progressed, we realized that we need to offer more options. And yeah, like, pretty crazy journey so far. Almost we have over 500 apps onboarded, 10 over $10 billion in TVL locked on our chain, 6 million plus daily transactions. And just to talk about why we're also popular, is because the block time on our chain is 2 seconds. So any transaction is final in 2 seconds. The average transaction cost is something like 0.00004. So another way of looking at this, like, number is that in $10 you could do like over 1 million transactions. Again, fully EVM compatible. So anything which works on Ethereum essentially works seamlessly on Polygon. We use the same ERC style assets. So we haven't, come up with our own token standard or anything like that. We use the same, ERC20, ERC721, ERC1155 token standards as Ethereum. And we kind of see ourselves as sort of a natural extension of the Ethereum ecosystem. Again, we sort of Merkle root transactions onto the Ethereum chain. So all your assets are secured on Ethereum. And at the same time, when you have something, when you have a blockchain or infrastructure which offers like very fast transactions at very low cost, it brings the focus back onto user experience, right? And this is so important, right? You already have like, so many Web2 users, right? For example, even in like all across the world, people have mobile phones, smartphones, they have like, internet connectivity. So people are used to a certain kind of experience. Like, people are used to using, let's say, Uber, or maybe like a Netflix, and as and if you cannot offer the same kind of UX in a blockchain environment, then you're not going to get that adoption. Like, you're not going to be able to onboard like millions of users onto blockchain technology if it's difficult to use, if it's slow and clunky. So if you can, if you so it's so important to create this kind of infrastructure, which is fast and inexpensive, so that you can get like a large number of users, and you can give them the kind of experience which they're used to in lots sort of Web2 kind of environment. um, and again, just to like, we have like a very huge ecosystem. I encourage you guys to check out our community run page, and I'll put down some of these links, which is awesomepolygon.com. And it's updated weekly, and you can see all the different gaming and DeFi apps that you launch. So all your tier one apps like SushiSwap, Aave, Curve, Augur, Frax, is all of them have deployed on Polygon. On the gaming NFT side, like, amazing games like Avagochi, very, very addictive game, Avagochi, and Zedrun, which recently also partnered with Stella Artois, and a few other sort of leading names in the business, on the Web2 side, and I've sort of tried to create this sort of very interesting way around community engagement. Terra Virtua, Atari is also working along with us. Sandbox is building on us. OpenSea is integrated, so if you have, if you sort of mint NFTs on Polygon, you can go and sell them on OpenSea. So we have like a really a lot of adoption. So yeah, so that really kind of sort of brings me to sort of the end of my presentation. So I just wanted to just cover some of these basics, and we have like our roadmap, sort of which is which I've talked about here, and we've got a lot of interesting things coming out, like a data availability layer, and we'll be making some announcements about that soon, and then the launch of our optimistic and the ZK rollup technology, possibly in Q4 of this year, or about Q1 of next year, like somewhere around that time frame. And yeah, and we have our team our original three founders of Matic Network, Jayanti, we call JD, Sandeep, and Anurag, and now Mihailo has joined us once, we sort of branded to Polygon, and we started building all of these new kinds of chains. And he's one of the top Ethereum researchers. And again, like the who's who from the Ethereum ecosystem have, come and joined us to sort of, help build you could say, the future of Ethereum scaling. Like Ryan Sean Adams from Bankless, Anthony Sassano, John Lineage. So yeah, so that really kind of brings me to the end of the presentation. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'd love to take any questions which you guys have about Polygon.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Arjun. Thank you so much for sharing with us the information to kind of level set, and it's very informative. A lot of good information about Polygon in general. Thank you. So I think next, as Arjun said, we'll probably, so we have a lot of people actually very interested on this, but as mentioned before, due to the time difference, they're not able to make it, but they actually had their question submitted on the Google form. So, and then we also saw people submitting question on the chat. So I think if you can talk, or you have some microphone or noisy area, you feel free to send question to the chat, or otherwise you can just unmute yourself and then ask the question. That being said, I will just try to go down the list, some of the question we picked from the question, the Google form,
Sure.
since I think we have plenty of time for the questions. So the first, the question we have collected is that I think you showed on the partnership slide, there are a lot of good projects right now building on Polygon, right? Like 1inch, 0x, Aave, SushiSwap.
Yes.
So the question is, what's the user acquisition strategy, right, for in general for Polygon?
So I think so in terms of user acquisition, like I would say that we have over 1.3 million unique wallets as of now. And in terms of user acquisition, right, the number one thing what we wanted to first do is like build, like I said, build that kind of infrastructure which gives the user that Web2 kind of environment. And I think the other aspect of user acquisition was that we've been connecting with a large number of wallets. So all the popular wallets out there, like if you want to use, let's say, MetaMask, Taurus, Arcane, and Math Wallet, and a lot of the most popular wallets out there already support Polygon, and we're talking to other wallet providers. So that's an interesting way for us to get more users to sort of who can come and experience how Polygon works. Also, we've been I've been talking to lots of people who build the blockchain courses, and we're going to be coming out with lots of course content on Polygon as well, not just on how to build on Polygon, but also how to use the network, and sort of and some of the tips and tricks and things like that. And I think that's going to help get a lot more sort of number of Web2 users, people who are not used to using blockchain, and then sort of give them the chance to experience blockchain for the first time, because this is a very underrated, you could say, aspect, or rather the power of of the Polygon network. When I talk about users, is because because the gas fees on Ethereum can sometimes be so prohibitive that a user has to come in, let's say, with $100, right? And let's say you go to Uniswap. So first you need $5 or $10 to send like funds around, depending on the network conditions. Then you go to something like Uniswap, right? Now you need like $30 to $50 just to make a swap, right? You entered the system with just $100, and this is, by the way, if the transaction goes through. Like, God forbid the transaction drops, and then like you've lost that money. Now, if somebody faces, like, an average user who doesn't know anything about blockchain, sees something like that, obviously he's going to think it's a scam, right? So what is this? Like, how is this going to ever change anything? But the biggest power of Polygon is that you can enter the network with just about maybe like $2 to $5. The transactions are so inexpensive. You can really explore blockchain. Like, you can gain that confidence. You can click around without the fear of making a mistake. Like, and even if you like do a wrong swap or anything, it doesn't matter. Like, because the transactions are like are so inexpensive. So this kind of an ecosystem, like the kind of infrastructure we built, really allows the average user to come and use blockchain technology and gain that confidence on blockchain. How it works, where should I click, like the simple things, like you need to approve contract and then you need to stake, like that's two transactions, by the way. So thinking, understanding those kind of things, right, and making that easy and intuitive for the user, I think that is really powerful, and that is what really help adoption. So this is kind of what we, how we thought about adoption. And and as an infrastructure company, our core focus, of course, is developers. But now that we've got a big ecosystem, and And if a user comes on, you can experience so much in DeFi and NFT. So now we're focusing a lot more on wallets and trying to, sort of do those integrations so that, users can come and use. Like we have a lot of integrations with centralized exchanges as well, like several top exchanges like OKX, BitMax, and KuCoin also very soon, will be supporting native Polygon integration. So you can enter and exit CEXs, from the Polygon network, thereby reducing the cost of entry and exit as well. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so another question we collected is about the Ethereum own scalability, and more specifically the summer, we're gonna have the London upgrade. That will have a lot of interesting kind of packages right, associated, especially the EIP 1559. So the question is like, what do you see this kind of upgrade, and how does that impact a Polygon network?
Sure. So I think we're really looking forward to the upgrade. Like I said, we're very passionate about Ethereum. We want Ethereum to succeed. And if this helps, if the upgrade also will help reduce gas costs at the same time, make the network more scalable, then that's great. And if you see further down the road as well, with ETH 2.0 planned over the next couple of years, that will bring in even more scalability into sort of the Ethereum ecosystem, which is again amazing for the ecosystem. However, what we genuinely feel is that, like currently, if you were to scale the usage of blockchain, right, from let's say from what it is today to, let's say, tens of millions of users or even hundreds of millions of users, the same kind of usage which, let's say, Android has, like, from their operating system standpoint, or iOS. Like when you start looking at those numbers and the number, and each user doing hundreds, if maybe even thousands of transactions on a daily basis. And if you want to imagine, like, how many transactions would I do, just think about the number of times you tap your phone. Like it's basically, in many ways a transaction. Now, so millions of users doing maybe thousands of transactions a day, like even with 100,000 transactions per second, like Ethereum will not be able to provide that level of scalability. And this is kind of why, when you talk about, like, when even Vitalik talks about scalability and talks about ETH 2.0, he always talks about the rollups, or sort of a layer two kind of, way of thinking about blockchain, and this is kind of, and this is why, because this is kind of what the future will look like with ETH 2.0, for, creating that, you could say very stable and secure, sort of bed on which, you can have massive amounts of liquidity, and then you could stake the transactions on top of that, onto a layer two solution. And this is kind of how, or on a scalability solution. And this is kind of how we feel the future is going to pan out. So we're very in line with, Ethereum's own development, and, we keep, we obviously talked to Vitalik as well. And we want to ensure that, whatever ETH is following, like we also sort of, find ways to not just follow that, but further augment Ethereum's capabilities. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ethereum scalability is definitely a big topic, right? Hot topic. I think a lot of projects. I think Polygon is the most successful project trying to help to solve the issue. Yeah. So we still have some questions, but I feel like we have a lot of interest actually from the live audience. I think we just go. We can just go down the list.
Let's go and take the live questions.
Yeah, let's go down the list. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So Polygon depends on POS nodes. Does it mean less decentralized and less trust? Actually, we have about 100 validators right now, spread across the globe, which, we're hands down possibly the most decentralized, you could say, scalability solution, possibly more decentralized than some layer ones as well, in fact. And let me in fact put the details right down. So you can check out wallet.matic.network/staking, and you can see all of our different validators. Some of our validators are like professional validator companies like Stakefish, etc., which run validators or miners for several different networks. And some of them are big, DApps. Some of them are enterprise companies like Infosys, which also runs a validator for us. So very decentralized that way, and which makes us, very sort of fault tolerant and censorship resistant. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Another question I think from Phil is 10 billion TVL on Polygon, which is about 20% TVL of ETH. So what's your projection of the TVL growth, and where does the growth come from? Interesting question. So where we've seen a lot of TVL come from is definitely number one from Ethereum, right? So a lot of apps which are on Ethereum were, facing scalability problems, with respect to the gas fees, with the throughput of the network. And again, being a scalability solution, we were able to offer them, an inexpensive and fast way to scale. So a huge amount of liquidity came from Ethereum, So like, for example, a lot of liquidity for Aave on Polygon came from Ethereum, and which is pretty interesting also that, when Aave launched on Polygon, and this is a stat which Aave gave us, that inside of a month, Aave got 26,000 new users, new addresses which they'd never seen before. And because we're an EVM network, your address on Ethereum is the same as your address on Polygon. So this is like very interesting stats. A lot of new users have also come. First time, sort of, you could say, crypto users have come onto, our platform, which further sort of gives us confirmation on the theory we had that, something fast and inexpensive will get new users into the system. Also, we're getting a lot of liquidity from other EVM chains, a lot of liquidity, a lot of apps from BSC are also deploying on Polygon, like AutoFarm, BZX, some of the bigger apps like TotoSwap as well, which is also, Toto is also deploying on Arbitrum. So a lot of liquidity has come in from other EVM chains as well. So the DeFi ecosystem on Polygon has been growing very quickly, and we expect to see, the TVL, to keep increasing, and thereby, allowing us to offer even more when it comes to DeFi, and it's not secured by ETH L1. So this is like pretty this is like an interesting discussion, because what is layer 2 and what is not layer 2 is like, leads to like a lot of flame throwing on Twitter, where people are like battling it out on what the actual meaning of layer 2 solution is. But let me like give you another way of thinking about it, right? So essentially the question really comes down to how trustless you are, right? And at the same time, how Arbitrum, like how a roll-up solution typically works, is that you take the computation off chain, right? So the computation happens, away from the Ethereum chain, and but sort of, you could say, the verification happens on Ethereum. So how roll-ups work, and some of you may be very well versed in this, that you do the computation off chain, and then you sort of roll up the transactions onto the Ethereum network, right? And thereby, so the computation is off chain, so you saved all of those gas costs, but the verification happens on chain, which is on Ethereum, right? So this is kind of why Arbitrum, is considered more secure, because the verification, like all the call data which you are sending it back to the Ethereum chain, and then thereby doing the verification there. And then of course there's a system of bonds, etc., to ensure all of that is done. And then sort of there's an incentive mechanism for people not to cheat and things like that. But this is why Arbitrum is considered, and Arbitrum is a great technology, by the way. I love the way they've built the rollups. I think it's very efficient. We've been in contact with the team for over like 6 to 9 months, and same with Starkware and with these teams. Now, so Arbitrum offers an approach to scalability. Of course, there are some concerns there as well, like the rollup operator, which does the rollups, tends to be centralized. It's usually a single rollup operator, so you need to decentralize that. There are ways to solve for it as well. Arbitrum has done that. Similarly, with ZK rollups, you have similar concerns. Um, so the question which we're trying to solve, right, like what even L2 represents, is basically scalability, right? Like layer 2 as a term is sort of, the term comes from scalability, right? You're thinking about scalability, and another way to visualize scalability, and if I were to just quickly go through the question, is think of it like an airport, right? So in an airport, if you have very high security, like you will have throughput problems, right? Not be able to put people onto airplanes. Similarly, if you have very low security or lack security, then bad actors will get onto the airplanes. So how do you solve this problem? So you try to create a system where there is good enough, or rather there is enough security that you can probabilistically reduce the probability of a bad actor getting onto the airplane to a very minuscule amount, thereby solving both the problems. You offer high throughput and you offer security as well. So the way we thought about security was not the way rollups, sort of, and this, sort of have solved for it. How security works on us, very simply put, in another 30 seconds, is that for every transaction, so we are a proof of stake network. So every transaction needs to be signed off by 2/3 of the validators. Then, like I said, every 256 blocks, we will Merkle root the transactions. That Merkle root also needs to be signed off on by 2/3 of the validators. And then a randomly chosen validator sort of places a checkpoint onto Ethereum, right? And this is kind of how we ensure that every transaction and every checkpoint which is being put on Ethereum is highly secure. At the same time, that checkpoint, that proof which has been put on Ethereum, anybody on Ethereum can challenge that proof. And if that proof is found to be and if suppose that proof is found to be false, that there is an issue with the checkpoint, then the 2/3 of the validators who signed off on that checkpoint will lose their stake. So there's a slashing mechanism. So there's a very heavy downside to cheating on the network. And for example, on Polygon, we have over, I think, close to about $1.5 billion stake on the network. So two-thirds of that, you're losing 66%. So like you're losing almost like 700 to $800 million. If you work against the network. So what we've done is that we've tried to have very, very high security for every transaction and every checkpoint, and then instituted a very heavy downside on cheating against the network. And this is kind of how we've solved for security, right? And this is kind of what we feel offers good security, and which Aave trusts us and Curve trusts us. And this is kind of how we feel that our approach to scalability offers a great like sort of a great sort of midpoint between security and throughput. So our now would Arbitrum be more secure? Because of the way rollups are structured, yes. But then there would be some concerns around like centralization and throughput, which I'm sure even the Arbitrum team will solve over a period of time. But this is kind of our approach, and we are also building optimistic rollup solutions and ZK rollup solutions. So we kind of realize the merits of these rollup technologies. So we are also working on them as well. So we will also be true L2 in due time. If you give us some time, we will 100% get there. And I think possibly in Q4 of this year, or possibly Q1 of next year, you'll see our offerings, the production ready kind of offerings come out. ETH 2.0 will come out at the end of the year or first quarter of 2022. What is the impact for Matic? I think ETH 2.0 would take a little bit more time, and you may want to sort of look at the latest roadmap by Vitalik for that. However, like I said, even if ETH 2.0 comes, serving a large, blockchain ecosystem with millions of users would still not be possible, even with ETH 2.0 security. So, with ETH 2.0 scalability. So you would have to have some form of sort of layer 2 infrastructure to solve for that. In the future, when ETH gas fees goes down dramatically, what is the advantage of Matic? Last week, okay, where is it? Where did the question go? Last week, Matic Network was attacked. It is because the fees was way too low? So yes, actually the reason why we're getting DDoS is because the fees is too low. So this is kind of a double-edged sword, which we've also come to realize that if you keep the fees of the network very low, it reduces the entry barrier to blockchain, but it also creates a situation where people can DOS a network with just like $5,000-6,000 they can sort of attack your network. This is a problem, but we've decided that the solution for us is to have create a more robust network, to have more infrastructure providers. So right now we have Infura, we will have Alchemy coming on live soon as well, and we will have we're planning to bring on even more infrastructure providers. So even if people want to attack a network, we will strive to be stable, because we are public infrastructure. I mean, people are going to attack a network. You can't stop that. So the only thing you can do is just be stronger and better as a network, and have better network characteristics. So when you talk about ETH fee going down, so yes, ETH fees is sort of slated to go down dramatically. It's actually already gone down because we've been able to absorb like a large amount of traffic as well from Ethereum. However, the cost benefit which we offer, like you compare a $1 transaction to something like $0.00004. There's a huge difference right there. And I'll tell you why this is important. Like, let's talk about something which is very popular these days: NFTs. Right? So we always hear about this multi-million-dollar NFT, $100,000 NFT, and then all of us are going home and trying to create NFTs. Okay, I can sell this for $100,000. So so we've seen these kind of things happen in the NFT world, but the vast majority of NFTs, like I would say upwards of 95% of them, are between the $0 to $100 category. Right? On Ethereum, you cannot sell a $1 NFT profitably. Right? On Polygon, you can sell a 50-cent NFT with a huge amount of profit. So when you have transactions which are this inexpensive, it allows for huge scalability in every business concept you're thinking about. So anything which you can imagine in DeFi or NFT, you can scale that 1000x because the cost is so low. You can create, so for example, you can create very sort of interesting experiences for users, which are, and of course, like when you talk about gaming, for example, gaming is, it tends to be very transaction heavy because you need to keep the attention of the user. Now, something like this is only possible on a network which has very inexpensive transactions. Like even if you have something like a 50-cent transaction on Ethereum in a day, if you're playing a game, let's say for a couple of hours, that's going to add up. You want to be ending up spending like 10, 20, $50 a day. And while on Polygon, it would maybe be like 5 or 10 cents. So I think, when you look at the cost benefit, even with the gas fees on Ethereum going down, like, and I encourage you to try out the Polygon network as well, so that you can experience it and you can see how awesome it is. You'll begin to see yourself the advantages of having something, infrastructure like this. All right. So why do you think Avagochi saw so many new wallets after launching on Polygon? Do users switch wallet to create new wallets for some reason? Is there a Polygon? Are there Polygon native users on Ethereum? Could it have been a press bump? Very interesting point. So, so definitely, I think. So I'll tell you why I feel Avagochi saw so many new wallets, right? So there were a couple of interesting ways. So definitely, Avagochi was great at creating these guides and these sort of, you could say, a lot of this documentation around how to use Avagochi, right? So for example, like when I talked about creating courses and content around how to use Polygon, like this is so important for an average user, right? Doesn't know. Like, people like you and me may be very conversant with MetaMask and all of that. That's not like the average user. So, I think Avagochi did a great job educating users on how to use Avagochi, which I think led to, a big part of the success. And it's an amazing team, the Avagochi team. At the same time, like I said, like, because Polygon is so inexpensive and you can enter the network literally with like $1, and you can experience, like, you can play around with Avagochis. And I think this is also what, brought in a large number of new users and addresses to Avagochi. And this is the same thing what we saw with Aave as well. Like, with 26,000 new addresses, with Curve, with pretty much any DeFi which launches on Polygon, they always end up getting these new users, because now users can, just come with like $2-3 just to experiment and try. Like, all of this, thing which is there out there in the media, DeFi and this token and that. People want to go, people are curious, they want to experience this. And if you can create something which is, creates, such a compelling technology, which is, fast, inexpensive, attuned towards the average Web2 user, this is how you can convert that Web2 user into a Web3 user. This is how you turn people into blockchain believers. And this is kind of where all of these new addresses are coming from. People who are first-time users who want to come and experience blockchain technology. So, and of course, this is a huge part of our mission. I think for all of us, we all want to see blockchain technology succeed. And this is very exciting when we see new users come onto the platform. So I think we've covered some of the live questions, Kun. So if you would like me to cover more questions, I can cover those as well.
Yeah, sure. Just want to let people know, just feel free to throw questions into chat or just unmute yourself and just ask questions. Or I think I see a hand.
Yeah, I'll ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your time here. You talked a lot about user acquisition, the user friendliness of Polygon. Definitely agree. And I was just wondering, with the soft rug of, Polywhale, one of the, the oldest farming thing on Polygon, and also, what happened with Iron Finance, how's that going to impact your growth strategy in terms of, new users? I think definitely some new users definitely got hit with those. Want to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
So very, very interesting point. And even Mark Cuban very publicly burnt his fingers on Iron Finance. I think it was a trial by fire for many people who are into DeFi. So this is a very interesting question, William, and thank you so much for that. But what I feel is that so even in so there are two ways. So let me answer the question in a couple of ways. So even in the centralized world, there are times when you put your money in the market and things don't work out for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that the markets are flawed. So even in decentralized finance, protocols sometimes have errors, which could be solved through audits. But sometimes there's a flaw in the business logic, right? And it's not a technical flaw; it's a business logic flaw, and because of which protocols tend to, for example, let's say, could sometimes collapse overnight, like what we saw with iron. Like there was this massive sell-off, and then suddenly the value of iron, the iron stablecoin lost its peg, and then there was just this continued sell-off, and that's kind of sort of brought that protocol down to its knees. However, what I do feel also is that there is a lot more to blockchain than just DeFi, right? There's this huge NFT sort of business. There's this huge gaming side of blockchain as well, and we have a very vibrant sort of DeFi gaming and NFT ecosystem as well. So I feel that with new users, like I don't feel that incidents like this would sort of derail user growth. I think if anything, it would make the users sort of more, people would be a lot more careful with where they put their money. Also, like, they would also maybe So there's a lot of articles also out there on these soft drugs. We also are working along with sort of security audit companies to put out more content out there on how users can protect themselves and not get carried away. So we are doing those kind of things. But like I was saying, I think the core point being that that there's so much more to blockchain than just DeFi, and I don't feel that, like, some incidents like this would push back user growth on Polygon. If I think the right way forward at this point would be to educate the users, and that users themselves should be have to be mindful of the risks, and yeah, and I think the ecosystem will continue to grow. So yeah, that's my viewpoint on that. But thank
Thank
you for
you
the
so
question.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And I don't think I was challenging the
Mhm.
point that Polygon's growth is going to slow down because of
No,
this.
that's okay. Hey, no worries there, man. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
feel
yeah,
like,
thank you.
yeah. Yeah. So I feel like it's like when Polygon is growing really fast, right? It's getting a lot of attention, a lot of users, and it's also getting attention from a lot of hackers, right?
No, definitely. I mean, the fact that our network is getting, like sort of DOSed like about twice or thrice a week these days, it kind of gives you some idea of of the number of people looking at our network. But then it's also exciting. I do feel that
Yeah.
if this is happening, that means we're also doing something right. So
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it can help the network to become more kind of resilient.
exactly. It forces us to create a better network. So I'm all for it. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Also, I want to double click on the point that you mentioned about like the spectrum of like throughput and the security,
Hmm.
and also the
Hmm.
rollups. So I think I remember probably Vitalik. I don't remember the exact wording, but he was saying
Hmm.
that he thinks, in his views, like short term, he thinks optimistic rollup like Arbitrum or Optimism
Hmm.
will win out with general
Hmm.
purpose CVM, and then ZK
Hmm.
might be like just more specific, a simple payment or exchange. But in the
Hmm.
longer term, once the ZK snark technology become more mature, he thinks it's going to
Yes.
win out ZK technology rollout. So what's your, I think you already mentioned a little bit, touch a point, but what's your thought there, and how do you guys think you can stay relevant in the longer term once those technology become more mature, like
Mhm.
ZK rollouts?
Right. So our how we plan to stay more relevant is to develop the same technology. So we are also working on optimistic rollups, and we're also working on ZK rollups. And this is interesting also how, Vitalik talked about ZK rollups as well and how they become more mature. And I think what he was alluding to were EVM compatible ZK rollups, right? Where there would now be interoperability with Ethereum code, and you could maybe write code in Solidity, and then have sort of implement zero knowledge features to sort of create a more secure network. I definitely feel that ZK technology is world changing, and I think ZK rollups will definitely, I think, in many ways change the face of scaling as well. Simply because the technology is also amazing. Of course, there are certain concerns as well. So to calculate zero knowledge proofs tends to be sort of processing heavy, so that means the gas fees is higher. Similarly, some of the same problems which you see with rollups, like with centralization of the rollup operator, and sort of having to send, like all of that call data to layer one, to do the kind of verification and things like that. Like those problems are still there. There are interesting solutions around this as well, and this is kind of where I can maybe talk about the data availability problem, which is like what we do currently with the way rollups are structured is, like I said, you take the execution sort of off chain, and you keep the call data on chain, right? But thereby reducing the cost. You've taken away the execution cost, but you still have to roll up the data onto the chain, onto Ethereum. Now if maybe there is a middle path, right? Maybe there is a way that you can take execution off chain, and you can also keep the call data off chain, right? And just submit the proofs on chain, right? And the call data would be maintained on a layer, right? Or possibly off chain in such a way that you can always be sort of certain to a very high level of probability that the transactions are ordered correctly, right? That for example, so if you can maintain that, you can ensure that that you can solve for something like data availability, and then you can ensure that those transactions are correct, and then possibly you may not have to roll up that data to Ethereum, right? And this is like an interesting approach of taking both, not of sort of solving, for execution off chain, but also creating a situation where you may not have to take huge amounts of call data on chain, thereby, making rollups more scalable and more gas efficient. So this is kind of, this is another way of thinking about it. We're going to be publishing some research on this side as well. And like I said, on this, what we call the data availability problem, which I think is very interesting, for people who are like sort of deep into this kind of stuff. And yeah, so we do feel this is the future, and we are working on these technologies as well. And like I said, Polygon aims to be, multi-chain. We do feel that the future will be multi-chain. It's not going to be this one technology which rules everything. It never is. So we are also researching all of these scaling technologies, and who knows, right? Even after ZK, there could be some new scaling technology which could be even more scalable or better, and then we will research that as well. So we've built a very strong research team. Mihailo himself is like a renowned Ethereum researcher, and we are making the research sort of segment of our business like even stronger on a daily basis. We're hiring more researchers just so that we can research these technologies and sort of have our weekly geekasms on what's the latest and greatest. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, seems like you guys are very focused on like research, and can't wait to read the report, data availability report, when it's come out. I think we
No,
got
sure,
another.
definitely.
Yeah, I think we got another question.
Oh, Phil has asked an important question. Do you have new VC money coming for future development? When will Polygon market cap exceed Dogecoin? Man, these are like difficult questions to answer, my friend. At least the second one. Second one, it depends on what Elon Musk is feeling in the morning. So I don't know about that, right? About us exceeding Dogecoin. But we're fairly confident that like see, so all of our business strategy, everything we think about, and how we've designed our entire ecosystem, and what we will do in the future as well, stems from this one simple metric, like it's adoption. Because if you don't have adoption, then no amount of marketing or fundraising, anything can save you. So for us, everything we do is focused on our adoption. Like anything, like for as somebody who has to grow the ecosystem, like whenever I try to do something or make a move or make an investment, the first thing I ask myself is this: like, is this going to lead to adoption? Is this going to improve adoption? Because if it's not, then it's not the right thing to do. So this is kind of what our view is, and that's how we've been able to become a big project with not like with no like significant VC money. Like we have no as one might say, Silicon Valley investors. So like, we had the first IEO where, Binance and Coinbase invested in us. And that's it. Like since then, we've managed to sort of grow to our size. Now to the question of is new VC money coming in for future development? So I think we have a very strong treasury at this point, which is more than enough to sustain us for like several years without going into the numbers. So we don't have this pressure on us to raise that VC money. And like I said, our single-minded focus on adoption has reaped its benefits, and this is always what our focus is going to be. Like everything we do is just focused on adoption. We are thinking maybe we can like raise around and possibly inject more money into our capabilities, maybe hire some more people. But then I feel that a lot of the problems we're solving are problems related to like deep research, problems related to sort of, you could say, in some ways, like I would even say, the philosophy of blockchain, how you want to think about an ecosystem, like what should the ideal state look like. And so these are not necessarily problems you could solve by possibly throwing money at the problem, which tends to be very prevalent around how VC thinking is, right? That, oh, there's a problem, they put $1 million in there, solve it, etc. That's not really, the problems we're trying to solve are not like those kind of problems. So it's something we've thought about, no doubt, but since we have a very strong treasury, there's no pressure on us to do it. Maybe we might, maybe we won't. So I don't have a very clear answer on that. Right. Besides DeFi, NFT, other areas for more adoption, I think gaming is going to be big, man. So gaming globally as a business accrues more revenue than I think pretty much every entertainment form combined. So I think gaming for us is a huge focus. I love gaming. I've been playing games since, I don't know, like forever. I still play games, and I think gaming is a very interesting new frontier. It brings this entirely new way to think about community and interaction and even like revenue. It's just amazing. I think gaming is going to be huge. And I think it's a big focus for us as well. That we've been very strong with gaming projects right from the start. Now we're talking to all the tier one projects as well, like Microsoft and all the big tier one gaming projects as well, because everybody's looking at blockchain. Like everybody's trying to figure out how do we leverage this. What is the best way we can think about using blockchain technology? So yeah, so I think gaming is going to be big in terms of adoption. Thoughts around ZK Sync. Very interesting project. I think ZK Sync, and it followed like a very, you could say step-by-step approach, like where they started with, the DeFi side, with payments, and now they're looking towards, going towards EVM compatibility. So, we've been sort of talking, we've been in touch with their team as well. And I think they're doing a great job. And sort of gives us also ideas on how we need to think about, ZK technology and deploying it. So I think it's great. I think their EVM compatibility is coming somewhere, I think around maybe August, September. So I'm really looking forward to that, and would love to see what that looks like. So yeah, so that's on ZK Sync. I also wanted to like just address like a very interesting point here, since we've talked about many other projects. Like the prevalent thinking, what most people have is that all the different scalability players, like whether it's Arbitrum, Starkware, ZK Sync, etc., you know have seem to have everybody thinks that all of us have sort of the knives out for each other, like on who's better and who's doing, but that's actually not true at all. Like all of us talk to each other all the time, and while we may differ in our approach or thoughts around scalability, we're still united by the same vision, right? All of us are trying to make Ethereum a better place. All of us are trying to improve Ethereum scalability and make the ecosystem larger, make it stronger, and bringing and finding ways to bring the world to Ethereum. So we actually, it's a very collaborative effort. All of our research teams talk to each other all the time. We brainstorm and try to figure out how we can sort of create like a better technology. So we connected to all of these projects. They're connected to us. So I think a lot of exciting things are going to happen in this year, because EVM compatibility is also coming to ZK, and that will usher in like this new way of thinking about ZK. So a lot of exciting things are going to happen. So I'm really excited about the next few months.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys are as well.
Definitely. So I think we spend a lot of time talking about scalability in Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your thought about other blockchains like Polkadot or Solana, since they're getting a lot of traction? Do you think the future will be more like Ethereum only, or like multiple blockchains competing? Or it's like other might just take advantage of this, which unlikely going to happen because Polygon is already scaling up Ethereum. So what's your thought on this, on other blockchains?
So this is very interesting question, because like each and every blockchain out there, I think represents a way to think about a different way to solve a problem, right? So Solana has this unique approach towards solving for blockchain, and similarly there's so many other players out there as well. What I feel is that all of them are great technologies. Like they have great tech teams. Like even if you look at like for example like Neo Protocol, or even Flow, or even Palm NFT, and all of them have great teams, and they have interesting ideas. But I think the philosophy of Ethereum, right, the way it is built, when you read about things like the theory of subtraction, of of Vitalik's view on scalability, on how you grow something, how you grow an ecosystem by relinquishing control, by giving away control versus trying to control something. Just and the sheer network effects it has, the fact that it's been around for several years under constant development, which is being guided. I think it's a combination which is extremely difficult to beat. And then of course you have other things like Solidity is a very easy programming language to learn as well. It's just like JavaScript. If you have JavaScript experience, it's easy to use. While with Solana, you'll have to probably learn Rust, and same Flow as well. So there's like some tech debt there as well for the average user, who may not be a crack C++ coder, right? It's probably just so from that perspective, I feel that what Ethereum has today is something which is going to be very, very difficult to overtake, right? So will these blockchains exist in the future? They might. I think I don't, like I said, I don't believe there's going to be this. I don't also believe in this concept of one system to rule everything. Like there will always be multiple ways, because like I said, these blockchains, I don't look at them as like competitors or something. I look at them as different ways to solve the same problem, right? Which is all of us want blockchain adoption, all of them, all of us, and there are different ways and different approaches to solving that problem. So which is interesting in its own way. And all of them have great teams. But I do feel that the network effects, like I said about Ethereum, are very difficult to beat. So Ethereum definitely, I feel, is slated to be the largest ecosystem out there by a large margin. And will other ecosystems exist? They might, but for them to exist and thrive, there will have to be this sort of focus on openness, on interoperability. Like, if the thinking around of these blockchains, turns towards being, let's say, a sort of a walled garden approach where, you stay within our ecosystem and then you're not interoperable with other blockchains. I think that is something which, those are the kind of ecosystems which don't scale with time. So if these chains also take interoperability seriously and want to sort of interact with the larger blockchains ecosystem at large, then of course, we could have multiple ecosystems, exist in harmony and grow together. So yeah.
Yeah. I think given the time, I'll just ask the last question we collected from the Google form, and also it's kind of a question asking like on behalf of a lot of the Stanford engineering or Stanford students in general. So Stanford is very like entrepreneurial university in the heart of Silicon Valley. So a lot of students actually rather working for a company, they will actually do their own startup, work on their own ideas. So what do you think are some of the interesting ideas, or in other words, most painful problems that keep you at night, Polygon at night or Ethereum at night, that you think are specific enough that students can kind of work on? Yeah, so just want to see some of your insights.
No, definitely. I think you downplayed the entrepreneurial sort of facet of Stanford. Of course, it's world famous for being, for sort of creating entrepreneurs, which many of whom have changed the world. So that's definitely true about Stanford, and it's amazing always to see the projects which come out every year. In the Web 2 and some in the Web 3 space. Now, interesting question about, what are some of the problems to solve? So definitely, I would love if more people, let's say from, let's say some of the more technical fields, also sort of, join hands with us and sort of start looking onto the scalability side of things. Because, for blockchain as a concept to succeed, it has to be extremely scalable. It has to be, at the level, if not better than Web 2. Right. So we need like the best minds of the planet, focus on these problems. And I'd love it if the students at Stanford and all of you guys also take a look at scalability and see, what are the different ways you can solve that problem, and if there are ways, for us to work together. On the business side as well, when you look at, like I talked about gaming, right? So gaming is going to be big. And so even business models and technology around how you can create compelling experiences for users, how you can make DeFi better. Like we talked about some projects like Iron, etc., and what can happen in the blockchain market. Now, what blockchain also offers are innovative sort of DeFi concepts like flash loans. It is something you can never do in a centralized environment. So how do you take these so you could say DeFi Legos and create like sort of very sustainable and long-term DeFi ecosystems? Like these are also interesting problems to solve. Also, like what I'm seeing a lot in blockchain these days is sort of an API driven approach, right? Where essentially you want to obfuscate the entire blockchain sort of layer, right? And not have people deploy smart contracts, etc. And or rather and just sort of have them do that through APIs. So you have all those smart contracts, for example, for creating tokens, for creating NFTs, all of that already deployed, and then you offer easy APIs for users to sort of interact with the blockchain. And so this means, so if you offer that, any Web 2 user can seamlessly use blockchain. Like you don't need to understand decentralization or anything like that. Like any blockchain user can just sort of mint an NFT just through an API call. And possibly, all they need to do is have just a crypto wallet. So there's several, different problems to solve all across the spectrum. It's a very young and growing space. Like, it's still, I would say, not even day one, it's day zero in sort of the evolution of blockchain. And you guys are at the right place at the right time. So I think anything you are looking to build will gain traction. And because we're discussing this, I also wanted to say that, we are very passionate about engaging with student communities, with supporting academia, with supporting colleges. Interestingly, we had a conversation with Wharton just 2 days back, and we're also talking to the Berkeley Accelerator, which has a fair amount of acclaim when it comes to building blockchain projects. So I would love to support projects coming out of Stanford. I would love to sort of put together grants, whether it's developer grants, whether you want like so luckily I would dare say that at Polygon we've seen some amount of success. So I'm connected to a large number of VC funds. So if you're looking to, for example, specialize in Web3 investments. So if you're looking to go that route, I would love to come and help you. And what I'm also going to do, since we are discussing this, I'm just going to put my Telegram ID right here. And anytime you guys have any questions, just feel free to ping me. Our team, I'm always available. There could be a little bit of delay, in my responses because I mean we're working pretty hard these days. I do like to sleep from time to time. But feel free to ping away and ask me any questions, and and whatever you planned, whatever you want to build, we will be there to support you. And I don't know if you have a structured program around this, and maybe Kun, since we're already connected on Telegram, maybe we can discuss this of us, putting together maybe like some sort of some funding or something like that, to accelerate projects.
Yeah.
Coming out of Stanford. We'd love to get involved, with you guys on that front. So please keep me posted, and whatever we can do, we will do it to support projects coming out of Stanford. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Arjun, for coming to share with us Polygon and all the discussions. Very insightful. Learned a lot today, and also appreciate at the end you said it's like willing to support, maybe potentially putting together a grant to support more like the student project coming out
Absolutely.
of Stanford. And I know like Ming, the CMO of the Polygon, also shared with me a list of job openings at Polygon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
We're sharing with the Stanford community, and also anyone on the call interested in any like job, either technical or business oriented positions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is like kun@stanford.edu, and we already shared actually the job post as well.
So definitely would love to have you guys, on board and join us, in the journey to scalability, and then let's see where this goes. So very exciting. Yes.
Yeah, definitely very exciting. So do you have any last minute kind of thought or kind of note?
No, I would just say, like, I'd just like to reiterate that it's still day zero, right? And you guys are at the birth or at the cusp of, this technology going completely mainstream, right? So right place, right time. And I'd love it if people would look beyond possibly, things like just tokens and pumping and dumping, and really look at, how blockchain technology is really, world changing. It's not just a get rich quick scheme, something which is, portrayed a lot in the popular media, but, a lot of people don't talk about, the critical problems it can solve and how it is still solving it today. So for example, just a small tidbit, like the COVID certificates for the state of Maharashtra in India are actually the data is being put into the Polygon blockchain so that, they can be tracked. And it's such an amazing way to track, COVID sort of vaccinations in a country like India, which has a fairly large population, how you can track it at a national level, because now the data is public and anybody can track it, all your law enforcement agencies can track it, airports can track it, public, transit systems can track it. So these kind of things, are amazing when I hear about them, that how you can deploy, blockchain at scale and solve problems, which humanity is facing. So I think, right place and right time for you guys. So, dive in, don't be afraid. And, even if it doesn't, things don't work, if something like iron happens to you, don't worry about that. People like me and, our project like Polygon, we're always there to support you guys. And we're rooting for you, and and we need more bright minds to come into blockchain technology and help bring in those millions of users into blockchain. So I'm very happy that you guys are doing this. You're engaging projects. You're talking to people. You're putting together these talks. So I think this is great. It's a great first step. And yeah, I'd love to see more projects come out. And I mean, like I said, Stanford has a history of changing the world. With the entrepreneurs coming out of the college. So I'd love to see you guys do the same in the blockchain space as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Arjun, for your time and sharing with us all the insightful thoughts. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.